Good evening and welcome to the 4th annual Starry Night concert for the Lake Orion High School band program. My name is Michael Steele, I'm the band director at Lake Orion High School, and behind me are 80 musicians made up from all 4 of our concert ensembles from this past year. And they have given 20 to 30 hours of their summer to put together a program. This is completely a voluntary ensemble behind me. And I think you're going to be very, very pleased that you came out tonight. We got perfect conditions, a little windy, but we'll deal. Might see some pieces of music go flying across the stage, but we'll live. We're going to get started today with a classic John Philip Sousa march. This is his High School Cadets March. As I said, this is our 4th time doing this concert, and I apologize if you've been here for the previous 3, so you'll hear the story for the same time, but I had taught in Lake Orion for 14 years and had never seen this place. And I know it's still relatively new, but we were doing an event, a Halloween-themed event with the band program, and I came here one night, looked down here, and saw this absolutely gorgeous little amphitheater, and said, we have to do a concert here every summer that I'm here. So we're going to continue doing that with your support, and it's so exhilarating to see so many people out here. It just keeps growing. So hopefully you'll enjoy what you hear tonight, already have, and will continue to, and you'll tell people that you know that this is a great event. Ultimately, my biggest reason for wanting to do this is because most of the time we perform in 2 locations. One is on a football field, and you have to want to go to a football game to hear them in the marching band at the football field or at a competition. And the other is inside our auditorium. And those might not be the most accessible locations for a lot of people. And so this is something where we get a chance to showcase these guys and their talent for a larger audience, one that might not want to come to an indoor concert. Sometimes people feel those are a little bit more more formal. This is very, very, very informal. We're putting together, if you looked at the length of the program, most of these students for a concert would have played 3 selections, and tonight we're playing 11. So there's quite a bit that they put into this, but as a director of this program, I'd love to have every resident in Lake Orion hear just how good these guys can play and how much they can accomplish in a short period of time. We've had 5 rehearsals, and to put all this together, I think, is a tremendous testament to their talent and to their dedication to this program. So I'd love it if you'd help spread the word and get that out to everyone so that we'll even have more of the hill filled next year. Our next selection is it's a relatively old transcription of most of the most familiar tunes from West Side Story. And it's one that's been around for about 50 years now. And you're going to hear just about every tune that you recognize from West Side Story played in this one. So without any further ado, this is highlights from West Side Story. And of course, West Side Story was composed by Leonard Bernstein with help from Stephen Sondheim. our next selection, we're actually not going to be playing Friska. It's mostly a time issue. As I said, this is 11 pieces, and 12 pieces would have been maybe a little bit over the top from time standpoint as well. But so in a minute, I'm going to announce the next selection. But I would like to ask. Certainly not required to do this. Of course, this is always a free concert. But some of the music that we perform at a performance like this is very unique to the repertoire high school band. And in other words, like some of the show tunes that you're going to hear, some of the movie soundtrack things, some of the pop tunes that you're going to hear, we really wouldn't perform at another venue. So for that reason and for one other reason, and that is the feeding of these students on a day like today. We had some food for them in between our little warm-up rehearsal that we had here earlier this afternoon and this performance. I'm going to ask if you are willing to, we would love to have donations toward this event. Certainly not required by any means, but your donation would go strictly to two things. One is purchase of music for this specific event. The music is, as I said, you know, it can be anywhere from $50 to $350 a selection. And that's completely, like I said, it's a very different type of music than my school budget would usually get spent for. So again, no requirements. Certainly always love to have you here for free. And the other one is to help us provide food for these students so they can spend the entire day here after we move everything here, have a warm-up rehearsal so we know how it feels to play outside, know how it feels to deal with the wind, and know what it sounds like, which is very different from our band room and from our auditorium and everywhere else we perform. So if you feel like you'd like to, we'd love to have whatever you can see fit. There will be places to donate as you're leaving. We are going to be taking an intermission this year. That's new for this performance for a couple of reasons coming up in a little bit. And there might be some people who are able to come around and collect your donations. So again, no requirement, but something that if you would please consider it, it'd be a big help to this performance growing and growing and growing each year. Our next selection is one that I hope has nothing to ever do with Michigan. It's called Alligator Alley. And it is well, except for the zoo. Okay, we go to the zoo, that's fine, we can see those guys. But I don't want to see them anywhere else. Michael Doherty is a very, very living and vibrant composer. He has a very unique style to his music. And a number of years ago, there was a project to ask the most relevant young composers to write music for bands. Because most of the composers of this day and age, as they have for the last several hundred years, like to write, most of the best composers, quote unquote, like to write for orchestras. And Michael Doherty and several other people in this series had written for orchestras. And they were asked to consider writing a real piece of music for bands. And this is one of the ones that came from that project. It's called Alligator Alley. It's very fun, very energetic. I can't tell that story. We played it in Disney a few years ago, and I think some of the students remember how it might have been a really strange time to play Alligator Alley at Disney. But we're going to have fun playing it for you. I'm going to back out of that comment right now, and hopefully you'll enjoy Michael Doherty's Alligator Alley. Earlier I mentioned the name of the composer of this next musical as part of the team that did West Side Story. And a few years ago, you may have attended a musical at Lake Orion High School, Into the Woods, that was still, it's the only musical that I've conducted twice at Lake Orion High School, and each time I conducted it, this rarely happens, every time I conducted it, over the hundreds of times, rehearsals, whatever, I found something new that was brilliant in the score, just absolutely brilliant. It might have been a musical pun, it might have been the way the words and the music lined up, it may have been just a chord structure that was unique, a reference to something else that Stephen Sondheim had done earlier or later, or had something that I recognized that he then used later in his career. But the score is absolutely brilliant. And the musical is very powerful. There are a lot of lessons. They go from very simple to very deep. And if you're not familiar with Into the Woods, there's a movie version that came out several years ago, and it's the same music. And there's, like I said, there are quite a few of the most notable themes are going to be in this selection. So it's one that I absolutely love. I think I've said that a few times, but hopefully you will also enjoy. This is one of our brand new ones purchased just for this performance, and I'm sure we'll use it again in future years. But this is the highlights from Into the Woods by Stephen Sondheim. Our next selection will be very familiar to you as soon as you hear it. Most likely, you probably might not recognize the name, especially the name of the ballet that it was written for, by the Armenian composer, Aram Khachaturian, who had a little discussion about Armenian versus Russian here a few days ago. So Armenian music is very, very, I don't know, I could get into a long musicological discussion right now that I don't think you guys want to hear, but Russia is such an interesting country in that it has music of the West, which would be the European countries, the great centers of music. It's steeped in those traditions, but it also, as an entire country, spans all the way to the East. So it has the flavors of the Middle Eastern music. And some of the areas, some of the regional sounds, also you can hear the Middle Eastern music. And so there's such a very unique influence as you go from one of the former Russian states to another one. And Aram Khachaturian is one of the more popular Armenian composers, and this is probably his most famous, most well-known thing. So hopefully you'll enjoy this. This is the Saber Dance, short and fast, a lot of energy. Our last selection before we take the intermission, and again, when we are finished with the selection, or really, I mean, it's an outdoor concert, so there's no rules about getting up and moving around. We are selling concessions. Band boosters are fortunate enough to be able to sell concessions at this location at a majority of these Tuesday night performances. And not to say a plug for anyone but our own students, but next Tuesday here as well, there's a group that I think you should want to check out, and that is the Southeast Michigan Wind Ensemble. Normally I'm a member of that. It is a wind ensemble made up of primarily band directors, and the other three Lake Orion band directors, Mr. Crimmins, Ms. Jarris, and Ms. Klein, will all be part of that performance right here, Tuesday night, the 24th at 7 p.m. There are band directors professional musicians, semi-professional musicians from all over the Southeast Michigan area that come together for 3, 4, 5 cycles a year. And it's not to be missed. We every time have fantastic performances that we're able to put on. And if I'm not mistaken, I see our conductor right there. I'm not going to embarrass him, but Mr. Cliff Chapman is our conductor. And Cliff Chapman is so responsible for such an amazing band program for so many years at Clarkson High School. And I know we have a natural rivalry, but in music we don't, because music's just so great. We don't need to fight over it. It's so fantastic. And his bands were phenomenal. They were always at the top of the concert band and marching band list for everyone in the state. So you should come out and listen, because I know it's going to be a fantastic performance. And Cliff, the only reason I'm not there is because we got marching band all next week. So I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. Our next selection, Simple Gifts. It's 4 shaker songs that Frank Ticelli arranged for band. The most famous of them is going to be the one that you hear last, Simple Gifts. Tis a gift to be simple. You'll probably recognize that melody. It's also been used in Aaron Copland's Appalachian Spring. Wow, I almost said Rite of Spring. That would have been bad. But the 4 movements are very beautifully set by Mr. Ticelli for this level of band, and I hope you enjoy it. And as I said, when we're finished with this, please go and partake from the concessions. If you'd like to make a donation to this program for the future, again, I mentioned what it'll go towards. It'll go just to those two things, and we absolutely love to have you to stick around to hear the second half. Before we play this, I'd be remiss in not thanking several groups of people. Pardon me as I do this, but it is so important to me to thank the people that allow us to do this. And first of all, I would say we have to thank the people for putting this up, this beautiful location. So thank you to the Orion Township Board, and thank you to Orion Township for having this place. The Township Board members are listed on your program. Thank you also to the people that allow me to do what I do here in the school district. So the school administration, starting from our superintendent, our assistant superintendents, all the way through the administration of Lake Orion High School. And if you notice that you may not know these people yet, but I've listed both the retiring Darren Abassi and Sarah Boudreau, who were associate principals this last year. And we now have 3 new assistant principals, so their names are there. I don't know if any of them are here. I invited them, but never heard back. Certainly, hopefully before too long, they'll know what kind of a quality program we have and what kind of quality kids we have. Last and certainly not least, probably foremost, is the Band Boosters. The Band Boosters are such an incredibly active organization. If you're a band parent, if you're interested in this band program, we'd love to have you take part in the Band Booster organization. As you all, I'm sure, are pretty well aware, money for a band program like this does not grow on trees. It does not come out of the ground. It is not just sent in some random $1 million check, although we'd love that. If you know someone that can do that, hook us up. The reality of it is that the school can only provide so much, and the school district only has so much money to work with. We're very fortunate. We're very well treated very well in the Lake Orion district by our administration. But there are so many things that allow me to have a quality band program for these students that I just can't provide them with the money that I'm allowed. So the Band Boosters help with so many other things. They help some of these instruments up here, some of the stands, some of the chairs, some of the music, uniforms. I mean, it goes from the first day your student joins the band program in 6th grade all the way till they graduate in 12th grade, every single program. So thank you to all those people. If any of those people that I've listed on the program are here, any of the other administration from Lake Orion, I know we have at least one other principal here. Certainly thank you all so very much, because these are just such amazing students, and I'm blessed every day to get to work with them. So we're going to play Simple Gifts by Frank Ticelli for you, and then we'll take a 10-minute intermission. So thank you so very much for coming out on this beautiful, beautiful evening. again, we're just going to take a quick 10-minute intermission. So thank you very much. Hopefully you'll stick around for the second half. We'd like to start the second half with a great new arrangement, new for us especially, of the classic 80s Toto selection, Africa. So this features the percussion section, so hopefully you'll enjoy as we get the second half started here. The soundtrack to Avatar was probably not actually the most memorable part of the movie by a long shot for many people, but there really was some good music in it. Several years ago we used it. We used a couple selections, a couple years in a row for the Lake Orion Marching Band show, or at least part of it. And so it became fun for myself because those were actually pretty good years for the marching band, so I'm proud of them. And this is another new one that I purchased for this year, and it's some fun music for these guys, some very aggressive music, some very beautiful music as well. So this is themes from the movie Avatar. Eric Whitaker is a very young composer. He's younger than I am, so I got to be jealous of all the success that he's had. But except for the fact that some of his music is just absolutely gorgeous, some of it is extremely unique. And with this selection, which he has a tendency to write things for both a choir and a band setting, he did something very unique. He actually elicited several hundred people to submit videos to him, YouTube videos. He gave very specific instructions on how to tune, tempo, singing, and he mixed them all together into a virtual choir. And so if you go on YouTube and look up virtual choir and type in this name, there's a short explanation of what the video is about, but just brilliant. It's gorgeous, okay? The translation that he gives for Luxorumque is light and gold, and this is the only slow tune that we do, and it's really beautiful. We did this a handful of years ago and heard a lot of great comments about it, so I certainly would love to perform this for you in this, now that the wind seems to be dying down, the sun going down, in the stillness of this beautiful evening. So hopefully you'll enjoy this, and then we've got a couple of short ones after that. And again, I can't thank you enough for coming out on this beautiful evening. The Hungarian dance number 5 is from a series of Johannes Brahms' Hungarian dances that he wrote originally for piano and then were orchestrated. And they're all fantastic. It's like the Slavonic dances of Antonin Dvorak, if you've heard those. They're all fantastic. It's hard to choose a favorite one. However, sometimes history just does. One seems to catch on and gets played a lot. So this one's going to be probably more familiar to most of you than any of the other ones, all the other ones combined potentially. The Hungarian Dance number 5 by Johannes Brahms, and a really good transcription by for bands. So hopefully you'll enjoy this, and we've got one more after this, so Hungarian Dance number 5. Our final selection for the evening is one that we, again, did a couple of years ago, one of the first of these concerts, and it's one of the students that performed it. They loved it. The audience seemed to really enjoy it. So this is music from The Incredibles, the first one that came out. Sorry, there's no arrangement that I'm aware of music from the second one that like really just came out. So that would be amazing if it came out that quickly. So very fun and energetic, very mysterious, very heroic, and thank you again so many times. I just can't thank you enough for being here and supporting these kids, because I think the world of them and what they've done. And again, this is 80 volunteer members, gave up so much of their summertime to put together a performance like this, and I can't thank them enough too. So my thanks to you and them, and again, hope to see you again next year and every other year that we do this. And please tell everyone that, that you know about this performance. If you enjoyed it, please invite several. Our hashtag is always fill the hill. So there's still some hill left to fill. So we got some work to do for next year. So thank you so much. We enjoyed very much performing for you. This is music from The Incredibles. Thank you so much, and see you again next year. Thank you.